Hi everyone, good day, good evening, good morning. It's Kat. I'm here at Mount Shasta. It's 4:55 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. September, let's see, star date. Stars are out. Star date, September 8th, 2019, Yom Kippur. Happy fasting, everybody. And really sacred energy. I know it's a very holy of days in certain religions, but Mount Shasta called me out, which was fascinating, to have me here, help with balancing me, balancing land. You know, we're all, a lot of sixes came up in my vicinity today. Let's see. Ooh. All right, I got my beautiful feather healing wand here. Look at how beautiful this is. A dear friend, Jill, made this for me. And she gave me another one. This one is clearing and the other one's for healing. We have two different ones. Okay, we just passed the pavilion. Here's a big fire circle right here. There's a very organic fire circle in the woods. There's several of them all throughout the camp. We are winterizing and closing down for the winter. Now, I wanted to get to the ferry portal and do some filming, but as you can see, the sun's going down. So, this is a great place to rent. You can rent the whole 40-acre property for very reasonable. Cheaper than a hotel room. Well, not, you know what I mean. And there's a beautiful meadow right here behind me. There's a little shack. There's that's for storage. I personally want to trick it out and make it a studio. And there's a meadow behind me by the shack. There's often mama deer and baby deers. We have deer all over the place. We have a haunted forest right here, but I cleared it. So we're gonna go in there. And I wanted to go ferry portal, but going this way is going through the forest. There's animals and energies and entities, but Mama Cat's fearless, so we're gonna go. We're gonna go for a walk. I do have a problem with bears. Yeah, Mama Cat does not do bears. Oh, look, a little bridge. I'm gonna walk over it. See my feet? Okay, ha ha ha. All right. Oh, that's kind of scary in here. Oh, Sunrisa's about to go to bed. 4:55. She doesn't go to sleep until later, but with all the forest here, it gets dark here real fast. So I probably am only going to go a few hundred feet into the forest. Probably will have to film the ferry portal in the morning. And my feather is clearing the way as I'm walking this day with love and honor, respect and glory. I love you, I love you. Let's not have any flurries of energy or weather. Oh, look, another little bridge. Woo! See the trail? And recently we had a group up here doing a sweat lodge. And the remnants of that, I have a photograph. I could probably insert it if I learn how to do that. Or we might make it all the way over there. It's just the frame that's left. Must have been a lot of fun. I have not done a sweat lodge before. And anyone that would love to invite me, I would love to come, provided our energies are all frequencied up. You know, we all run our energy at different levels, so it's good to have a good group. Oh, look at this over here. We might not even make it over there. There's so much to explore. See the opening? Little trail to a clearing. That's nice for camping. We have little campsites everywhere. I'll show you where I'm walking. Oh, I don't know if I turned the volume off. Okay, I'm gonna stop here.